Welcome and thank you. So I am going to try to do what we call prime the pump. Spain has a lot of wells, and you draw the water, but you have to start by having a little water in the pump. And so I'm going to give you a little water for your pumps so that in your groups following this, you can be more productive. This water comes from an incredible group of people who gathered here over the last several days. We had academics like Annalie and Dan and Po-Chi Wu and others from University of Beijing, from Berkeley, from Babson. We had practitioners in innovation, like myself at Cambridge Innovation Center. To give you an idea, Cambridge Innovation Center has 280 companies under one roof in Cambridge. I think we're the largest number of startup companies in one place anywhere in the world. We have Rich Kivel from the MIT Enterprise Forum. We have many. Fernando is a practitioner. We had government policymakers from some of the most interesting and creative places in the world. We had Tan Chin Nam from Singapore, who has architected much of Singapore's innovation policy. We have Phil Lauder over here, who ran the U.S. Small Business Administration in Washington. You may or may not know that the Small Business Administration in the U.S., even though it is part of the government, and we usually think the government does not accomplish much in the United States, they're supposed to laugh at this point. The Small Business Administration has had an incredible impact on innovation in the U.S. from my perspective as an innovator and an entrepreneur. We had venture capitalists near from Israel. Israel, of course, is a terrific example of a country which has gone from being a desert to being an innovation powerhouse. And we had university presidents like Angel here from Thunderbird, and we had Steve from George Washington University. We had consultants like Pedro, who you heard from before, and thought leaders like Joel. So it was just an incredible group. In total, it was about 30 or 40 of us from all over the world, from India, from Latin America, from Asia, all thinking, how can we help Spain with some ideas for becoming a more innovative country? How can we do that? It was a really fun discussion. We discussed what works. ¿Cuál es lo que funciona en nuestros países? And then we said, what can work in Spain? One of the themes was there was no recipe. Every country did it a different way. We cannot tell you, this is the answer. This is what Israel did, so you can do exactly the same thing, and Spain will become Israel. No, that won't work. Of course it won't work. So the truth, the reality of the situation is that although we had many of the world's best experts on innovation here, and we have many good ideas that I will share with you, if you are going to change Spain, you are going to change Spain. The people in this room, when you go into your working groups, you need to roll up your sleeves, take off your jackets, and think about what are the specific actions that you can take now to start changing the culture in Spain. We heard that Spain, for instance, is, from Arturo, I think, Spain is increasing its expenditure on R&D as a percentage of GDP. But in the same period, and I don't mean to be critical, in the same period that Spain went to 1.3% of its GDP over the last 7 or 8 years, Korea, when Spain was going like this growing, Korea was going like this, right? You've got to do more. You're doing good, but you've got to do more, okay? So I'm going to prime the pump in 2 ways. First, I'm going to share with you some special words that floated in the air that came from one of us and pollinated the conversation amongst all of us the way bees pollinate flowers. There are some special words that became part of our dialogue, and I really want to highlight some of these words. Okay, so the first, I think I will start with, came from our representative from the University of Beijing, and it was chaotic pragmatism. Chaos is the situation in China. There is no true central plan in Chinese economic development. But they are pragmatic. They try many, many things. Some fail, some succeed. The Chinese philosophy is we have a lot of people. We have a lot of money. We can try many things. If some fail, that's not a problem. The important thing is that some succeed. So take home with you this idea that it's okay to have no master plan, no perfect plan, but many experiments. Okay? That's chaotic pragmatism. A second idea is that the government can only wax the surfboard. Okay? The surfboard, as you know, if you spend time up north in Spain where there's wonderful surfing, there are some amazing artists that can surf those waves. I know I can't. Those are the entrepreneurs. The government can't surf, but it can wax the surfboard. So the question is, what are the few things, and usually it's few things, that government can do to help make Spain a better place for entrepreneurs to surf? Our representative for us here, Abu Ibrahim from the United Arab Emirates, talked about the importance of making sure that the right connections are being made between people in the country. He talks about the cup of coffee test. And the cup of coffee test is, are the right people having the right conversation in Spain? So, what does that mean? It means you may have someone very powerful in Telefónica, like Javier over here, and you may have a young person who has just graduated from a university with an idea. Are they having opportunities to meet? Javier has many resources, and the resources of Telefónica, that he can put to bear to help this young entrepreneur. Are they meeting? Are they having the cups of coffee? This kind of matchmaking is very important. It's a very important role that you can play. It's part of waxing the surfboard. I won't go through all of these. We talked a lot about search networks. I'll talk about just two more. There was a lot of discussion about how adversity, that means problems or weaknesses, may be the best source of your future competitive advantage. So start by thinking about what Spain's biggest adversities are. I'll give you an example of a hot place and a cold place. One of the hottest places in the world is Arizona, and Angel knows this well. They have a lot of sun, kind of like Extremadura probably, but maybe more so. Okay? They have become a world center in solar energy technology and research because it's so hot. They're a great place to do that research. If you talk to a laboratory from Germany about where they would like to build a research center overseas, and it's solar energy, they're likely to want to do it in Arizona. Finland has the opposite problem. It's a very cold place. And as you know, for 1 month a year, the sun never rises. You have 1 month of night, right? For those of you who've been there. This is a big problem for Finland. But one of the things they did was they became a world leader in urban lighting, in lighting cities with street lights and so forth. The rest of us just have street lights. But if you go to Finland, they are a world leader there. They have 26 zones in their capital city with different tests of different lighting systems, and some of them are very beautiful. The world's planners, we heard from Chicago, for instance, travel to Finland to think about how to light their cities. So these are just examples of where you can find your disadvantages or your adversities and turn them into strengths and have these lead your country. We'll hear later how one adversity of Spain's is an aging population. You have more older people in Spain than many other countries. And that is a problem in some ways, but we'll hear about how that might be an opportunity for Spain. So finally, Singapore has a problem of not enough babies. Okay? It's a small country. Singapore as a country is maybe smaller than Madrid in population, something like, what is the population? 5 million? We heard Madrid is 6. So if Singapore wants to become big faster, it needs to borrow other people's babies. Okay? And what this means is not just getting smart people to move through an open immigration policy, which Singapore has and Spain does not have, but also convincing very strong entrepreneurs to move their companies to Singapore. And Singapore has been very effective at this. In fact, 10 years ago, I founded a company, don't ask why, in Malaysia. And we moved it to Singapore after about 3 months. We realized Singapore was the right place in the region to have that business. So Spain can be that too in its region, but you need to do more waxing. Okay, so these are special words. They're not answers. They're ideas to help you prime the pump. Again, you must decide what makes sense for Spain. So in our group, we developed about 30 concrete ideas for Spain. Okay? These ideas are like a loaf of bread that we have put in the oven for only maybe 1/2 the right amount of time. They're not ready to eat. They're still soft, and you can change their shape. In English, we would call these half-baked ideas. Okay? So they're not answers, but maybe they will give you some thoughts. Maybe they will open your eyes to some possibilities. We grouped these 30 ideas into 5 main categories. We didn't start with the categories. We started with ideas, and then we asked ourselves, what categories do these seem to fall into? And they were education for innovation and entrepreneurship, infrastructure to support innovation. I'll just say what these are. Education may mean, for instance, teaching, as Singapore does, elementary school students to become entrepreneurs, middle school students to become entrepreneurs, high school students to become entrepreneurs, college students to become entrepreneurs, and graduate school students to become entrepreneurs. We do this in Boston. I lecture to grade school students about being entrepreneurs. I know that Singapore does it. I don't think Spain does it yet. Infrastructure to support innovation. These are ideas like creating centers, like the one I run in Cambridge, but there are many other ideas. Direct support for entrepreneurship. This is the ideas of providing ways to provide money to entrepreneurs to make it easier to become an entrepreneur, and there are many ideas here. Specific sector innovation programs. These are ideas like, what I mentioned before down here of perhaps focusing on aging, the aging population. That could be a sector and could be the basis for an innovation program. And finally, government policy changes. There are some basic infrastructural changes, such as immigration reform, that I discussed before, that you may want to discuss. There's one more category that runs across all of these, and it's communication and branding. It is often forgotten when we do good things in these areas that we also have to cheer about it. We have to tell the world, we have to create heroes of the people who are pursuing these things. Just as an experiment, I want to ask, can you guys name one international entrepreneurial hero? Someone who is doing entrepreneurship very successfully somewhere in the world. I'm asking somebody to give me a name. I'm going to wait until you do. No, you were here. I don't want anyone who was here yesterday. Sorry? A Spanish, puede ser español, un español, puede ser un norteamericano, o inglaterrano, o lo que sea. Una persona muy famoso por ser emprendedor. Sí. Okay. Alguien que no estaba aquí. Bueno, okay, Arturo.
Well, I was only passionate, so I think I can comply.
Okay.
So I would say Amancio Ortega, who is the founder of Inditex Group in Spain.
Yes. Yeah, even I have heard that name. So other names that come to mind?
I don't know his name, but the CEO of Zappos, the online shoe.
Zappos. Yes, Tony
Shia.
Shia.
Tony Shia.
Fantastic guy who created a new culture, in a new type of entrepreneurial culture in his company. Has anyone heard of Virgin Airways? Right? Richard Branson, a man who is a phenomenal entrepreneur who's created many companies. How about Steve Jobs? Jobs is an interesting story because, as you know, he founded Apple, and the Apple did very well. And he left Apple, and it died. And he came back, and it did very well. These stories are about people who have changed the world. You need to make these people into heroes. You need to make your policies and ideas into big things in Spain. You need to build stories and legends about what you're doing. So, I'm going to just briefly, in closing, highlight 3 ideas that we came up with as a group, or in our subgroups, that are similar to the kinds of ideas we hope you will come up with in your groups following this. Okay? The first is the idea to run a very focused experiment in a city. So pick one city in Spain. We will not pick the city. You pick the city. And do everything that you can think of to support entrepreneurship, but just in that one city, to keep costs down. Why? As an experiment, to find out what works. As a laboratory for innovation in Spain. So, for instance, change the curriculum in that city so that entrepreneurship is being taught at all levels of education. Build infrastructure, perhaps an innovation center, perhaps networking groups for entrepreneurs where the president of Spain comes to talk to them. By the way, leaders can change behavior. A leader walking into a room will change people's ideas about what is important. So your leaders can do this. Provide funding programs, new and innovative funding programs, and there are many possibilities here that are successful in the United States and elsewhere, to help provide capital for entrepreneurs. Perhaps pick a sector in that city which is related to that city's history to focus on, and perhaps even create a special economic zone in that city with different labor laws or different immigration laws that apply just to that city. Okay, so that's the first. A second, this is more broadly applicable to Spain, comes out of this notion of adversity. Pick a single sector. And the one that we came up with in our group, but you might come up with a different one, is the aging sector, the older people. Spain, in some ways, is the Florida of Europe. Many Germans like to retire to Spain. We know this. It is a place where, in the future, you might have a great deal of wealth, because when people retire, they bring their money with them. You might have a great deal of wealth in Europe in the next decades moving physically to Spain, if you are the best place in Europe, or perhaps the best place in the world to retire. But what do you need to do to be that? You might say, how can we do that? Through innovation. So there are programs at MIT, and I think maybe in Singapore and elsewhere, to create smart homes. Homes that are perfect for an older person who needs safety and needs more things done for them. Maybe that is an area. Maybe there is specific facilities that would be good to have more of in the retirement areas of Spain. I know here in the Retiro, you have a playground for older people. Have you seen it? I don't know how to say that in Spanish, but there is a place for older people to exercise and so forth. Maybe you can create the best of that and put them all over Spain. There are probably 100 ideas for how to be the best place for aging. So take a sector like this and win. Be the best in the world. I'll give you one last idea, and then we're off. Okay? So the last idea is, in the United States, we have a program that our President Obama introduced, which is very powerful. It's new. It's a new policy tool. And there are not many new policy tools these days, so this is interesting. He is creating competitions amongst regions to get federal funds. So he is saying, here is a large amount of money we're going to give it to 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 places in the United States that make a proposal to accomplish a goal, where their proposal is the best proposal of all the regions. So he's done this in education. He said, here's a very large amount of federal money. We're going to give it just to a few regions in the United States, and the regions have to come and make a proposal about how they're going to spend it to radically improve education. That is an Obama idea, and it's totally changed the dialogue in each region, because the regions, their blood is rising. If you got Catalonia and El País Vasco and Navarra and Castilla-La Mancha competing to put the best proposal forward to further entrepreneurship in their region, you might discover that they are willing to change some things. They might be willing to change some laws locally as part of their proposal to win the money. So here's the idea. In the United States, we have a program where 1% of all of our federal procurement in many departments, defense and so forth, is set aside. And this is something Phil is very familiar with. This set aside, then, is spent on procuring innovative and new products from small companies. So we observed that most of our federal spending goes to big corporations. We wanted to be more innovative, so we took just 1% and we said, we'll still spend the money. We're not stopping spending the money. It's not a budget cut. It's a set aside. It's redirecting 1% to innovative and new products. It's a very successful notion. In Spain, you could do that, take this 1%, but instead of giving it to every region, give it to some regions based on a competitive proposal. They make a proposal about how to use the money to do procurement, how to do it fairly, transparently, so it is not somebody's brother or uncle that gets the money. How to do it, how to change their laws. You're laughing, but this is a problem everywhere in the world, not just in Spain. How to do it, how to change the laws so that the region can be more effective. How to do these other things in that region so that they can really embrace and become stronger entrepreneurial cultures. So that's the last idea, and I hope that these ideas are helpful to you as you go off and come up with specific, actionable plans that you can implement. Thank you very much.